The countdown begins as organizations across the world are gearing up for the European Union's latest privacy legislation, which will affect every business in control of any EU resident's personal data.
That's right. And if you haven't started aligning your company to comply with these rules and regulations yet, it isn't too late to start. But you need to start immediately, or you'll face heavy fines that could have a serious negative impact on your organization.
Hi, and welcome to our Microsoft 365 Security and Compliance Information Series. My name is Kyra, and this is Manpreet.
Hello, everyone.
Who will be teaching you everything you need to know to prepare for the European Union's General Data Protection Regulations, better known as GDPR, to avoid those heavy fines and also help keep your company's data secure.
Absolutely. We'll start by giving you an overview of what GDPR means for your company and what changes you need to be aware of. And later on, we'll have more videos teaching you on what kind of opportunities are available for Microsoft partners and other organizations, and also how to leverage Microsoft 365 solutions to align your company to compliance standards. So with that, let's begin.
So, on May 25th, 2018, a European privacy law is due to take effect that sets a new global bar for privacy rights, security, and compliance.
You're absolutely right, Kyra. The General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR as Kyra mentioned, will impose new rules on organizations that offer goods and services to the citizens of the EU, or that collect and analyze data tied to EU residents. And it won't matter where these organizations are located. They could be within the EU or anywhere else around the world. The goal for GDPR is to harmonize data privacy laws across Europe, to protect and empower all EU citizens' data privacy, and to reshape the way organizations across the region approach data privacy.
So, just to be clear, the GDPR is the European Union's newest data protection law. It is replacing the Data Protection Directive, which has been in effect since 1995. So, Manpreet, can you discuss what are the main requirements of the GDPR and what our audience should be aware of?
Absolutely. The GDPR imposes a wide range of requirements on organizations that collect or process personal data, including a requirement to comply with 6 key principles. So the first principle is transparency, fairness, and lawfulness in the handling and use of personal data. You'll need to be clear with individuals how you're using their personal data, and will also need a lawful basis to process that data. Number 2, limiting the processing of personal data to specified, explicit, and legitimate purpose. So you won't be able to reuse or disclose personal data for purposes that are not compatible with the purpose for which the data was originally collected. And number 3, minimizing the collection and storage of personal data to that which is adequate and relevant for intended purpose. And 4 is ensuring the accuracy of personal data and enabling it to be erased or rectified. You'll need to take steps to ensure that the personal data you hold is accurate and can be corrected if any errors occur. 5 is limiting the storage of personal data. So you'll need to ensure that you retain personal data only for as long as necessary to achieve the purposes for which the data was collected for. And lastly, ensuring security, integrity, and confidentiality of personal data. Your organization must take steps to keep personal data secure through technical and organizational security measures.
It sounds like these regulations are really looking to protect the individual. That's great.
Absolutely.
But many business owners are wondering whether any of this will apply to their organization. Can you explain?
Absolutely. So that's definitely a legitimate concern. Why should you care if you operate in a non-European country such as the US? Well, the GDPR applies more broadly than it might be apparent at first glance. Unlike privacy laws in some other jurisdictions, the GDPR is applicable to all organizations of all sizes, all industries, all across the globe. Specifically, GDPR applies to processing of anyone's personal data if the processing is done in the context of the activities of an organization established in the EU. And this is regardless of where the processing takes place. And the second part, processing of personal data of individuals who reside in the EU by an organization established outside of the EU, where that processing relates to the offering of goods or services to individuals or to the monitoring of their behavior. So even if the company only has one customer that resides in the EU, you'll be held accountable.
It's also important for the business owners to note that the EU is often viewed as a role model on privacy issues internationally. So we also expect to see concepts in the GDPR adopted in other parts of the world over time.
Absolutely, great point.
So Manpreet, I get this question a lot. What if an organization is only processing data on behalf of others? Does it still need to comply with the GDPR?
Hey, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. Although the rules differ somewhat, the GDPR applies to organizations that collect and process data for their own purposes, which are called controllers, as well as organizations that process data on behalf of others, known as processors.
Okay.
So this is a shift from the existing directive that you talked about earlier, which applied only primarily to controllers.
And as a follow-up, what risks does an organization face if it doesn't comply?
Well, the last several decades, the European privacy laws have generally not included significant fines for breaches. That'll change dramatically under the GDPR, where the maximum fine for serious infringement will be the greater of either 20 million euros or 4% of an organization's annual global revenue. And on top of that, the GDPR empowers consumers and organizations acting on their behalf to bring civil litigation against organizations that breach the GDPR.
Wow, so this is something that no organization or Microsoft partner should take lightly or procrastinate on.
Absolutely right.
So that should wrap it up for the first part of GDPR basics that organizations need to be aware of, including what it is, when it's happening, who it affects, and what is changing.
And next time, we'll do part 2 of this GDPR basics blog, where we'll cover how do we know if data that an organization is processing is covered by GDPR, and also what will be the key changes associated with GDPR. So thanks again for joining us, and please visit cybertraining365.com/M365 for our complete Microsoft 365 security and compliance training, which includes GDPR. Again, my name is Manpreet. This is Kyra, and we look forward to seeing you again in our upcoming videos. And as always, feel free to contact us at hello@cybertraining365.com or visit us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter for additional information on GDPR and related subjects. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.